Have you ever noticed how your voice changes when you're confident versus when you're scared? It's almost like your voice carries a truth your mind can't hide. For chosen ones, this isn't just random. Your voice holds power, influence, and spiritual weight. And that's exactly why life has tried to silence it from the very beginning. The way you speak, the moments you stay quiet, the tone you use when you finally say what matters, all of it is shaping the reality around you more than you realize. This isn't about shouting louder. It's about understanding what your voice truly is and why it matters now more than ever. If you've ever felt unheard, overlooked, or like your words get stuck in your throat, this video is going to strike something real inside you. Because your voice isn't ordinary, it's a frequency the world needs. So before we get into it, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss what's coming next, because after this, you'll never think of your voice the same way again. Throughout history, the voice has never been just a way to communicate. It's been a force that shapes reality. In ancient texts and traditions, the spoken word was believed to carry creative power. Think about it. Civilizations were built, movements were started, and destinies were changed not through weapons, but through words spoken with conviction. A single speech could unite nations or ignite revolutions. Even spiritual narratives highlight this power. Creation itself is often described as beginning with a word. That's how central voice has always been to human existence. But in today's world, we've grown numb to that power. Social media, constant noise, and shallow conversations have made genuine speech feel diluted. Many people talk, but few speak with presence. It's easy to underestimate the weight of your own voice when it's surrounded by endless chatter. For chosen ones, this disconnection hits even deeper. You carry a frequency that isn't meant to blend in. It's meant to awaken, shift, and impact. Yet somewhere along the way, society conditioned you to stay quiet, second-guess yourself, or soften your truth to fit in. Your voice is not just sound, it's an energetic imprint that can inspire, guide, and even shake the atmosphere. When you speak from alignment, people don't just hear you, they feel you. That's why reclaiming your voice isn't about becoming louder, it's about becoming more authentic. The moment you recognize that your words are living forces, you begin to speak with intention, clarity, and spiritual strength. And that's where true influence begins. Your voice is more than sound waves leaving your mouth. It's a direct reflection of who you are. The way you speak carries your emotions, your beliefs, your confidence, and even the parts of yourself you try to hide. You can pretend to be okay with your face, but your voice will always reveal the truth. Think about the last time you were nervous. Your tone probably trembled, your words came out a little too fast, or your throat tightened. On the other hand, when you were sure of yourself, your voice naturally became steady, clear, and magnetic. That shift isn't random, it's your identity expressing itself through sound. For chosen ones, this connection is even more significant. Your voice carries a spiritual signature, something that sets you apart without you having to announce it. When you speak from your true self, people can sense it. It's why some individuals capture a room without shouting, while others can speak for hours and leave no impact. It's not volume, it's authentic resonance. The problem is, many people live disconnected from their real voice. Years of pretending, pleasing, or silencing certain truths can make you sound like a stranger to yourself. Reclaiming your voice is not just about speaking up. It's about remembering who you are every time you open your mouth. When your voice matches your identity, you stop performing and start being, and that is where your power truly lives. Most people don't realize how early their authentic voice was shaped, and often shut down. From a young age, many of us were told to keep quiet, don't talk back, or speak only when spoken to. These words might have seemed harmless to adults at the time, but to a sensitive child, they send a powerful message. Your voice doesn't matter. Over time, these moments accumulate. Maybe you shared an idea that got laughed at, or spoke a truth that made others uncomfortable, and instead of being encouraged, you were met with disapproval. Each experience quietly trained you to hold back a little more. For chosen ones, this silencing often happens even more intensely. You might have felt different from the start, sensing things others didn't, speaking truths that adults didn't know how to handle, or expressing yourself in ways that made people uneasy. Instead of being nurtured, that uniqueness was sometimes labeled as too much, weird, or out of place. And so, you learned to shrink your voice to make others feel safe, even if it meant disconnecting from your own truth. As you grew older, this conditioning didn't just disappear, it became internalized. You began censoring yourself automatically, questioning your words before they even left your mouth. This is why, as adults, so many chosen ones hesitate to speak up, even when their spirit is urging them to. Understanding these early patterns isn't about blame, it's about awareness. Once you see where the silencing began, you can finally start to reclaim the parts of your voice that were never meant to be muted. For chosen ones, being silenced early in life isn't just a random coincidence. It often has a deeper spiritual purpose. Your voice carries a unique frequency that disrupts illusions, awakens others, and speaks truth in a way that can't be ignored. That kind of power doesn't go unnoticed. Spiritually, many are tested through silence before they're trusted with influence. It's as if life places you in seasons where your voice is suppressed, not to break you, but to build the strength and clarity needed to use it wisely. Think about the stories of great messengers, prophets, and spiritual figures. Many of them spent years in obscurity before their voices were heard. Joseph's dreams were mocked before they were honored. Moses doubted his speech before he led nations. Even people today who make lasting impact often go through long stretches where they feel invisible or misunderstood. These aren't punishments, they're preparation. When your voice carries a divine assignment, opposition will rise early to silence it. This can come through family, society, or your own self-doubt. But underneath that struggle lies a spiritual lesson. Your voice isn't meant to be fragile, it's meant to be forged. Silence becomes the training ground where authenticity is refined, fear is confronted, and your spiritual authority begins to take root. Once you recognize this, those silent seasons stop feeling like setbacks and start. Beyond the spiritual and emotional layers, your voice has a literal vibrational impact on the world around you. Every sound you make carries frequency and energy. When you speak, those vibrations travel through the air, reaching not only people's ears, but also their nervous systems. Think about how a calm, steady voice can instantly soothe someone, while a sharp, anxious tone can make an entire room tense up. Your voice doesn't just communicate information, it transmits states of being. Scientific experiments like cymatics have shown how sound frequencies can shape matter. When certain tones are played on vibrating plates covered in sand, the particles arrange themselves into intricate geometric patterns. Change the frequency, and the pattern changes. In the same way, the frequency behind your words influences the atmosphere you're in. A voice anchored in truth and confidence naturally brings coherence. One rooted in fear or hesitation creates dissonance that others can feel, even if they can't explain it. This is why chosen ones often have such a noticeable effect when they speak. It's not about volume or eloquence, it's about the energetic signature carried in their tone. When your inner world is aligned and your voice reflects that alignment, it can calm storms, inspire action, and shift emotional climates. Understanding this isn't meant to pressure you, it's meant to remind you that your voice is not ordinary. It's a living frequency capable of shaping both hearts and spaces. Fear is often the silent gatekeeper standing between your voice and the world. It doesn't always appear as a loud panic. Sometimes it's subtle, a tight throat when you want to speak, overthinking before expressing your thoughts, or the urge to shrink in moments that call for boldness. Fear teaches you to question your worth before your words even leave your mouth. For chosen ones, this fear can feel magnified because your voice isn't ordinary. It carries weight, and deep down you sense that. This fear usually stems from old experiences, moments when speaking your truth led to rejection, misunderstanding, or conflict. Over time, your nervous system learns to associate self-expression with danger. So even when the situation is safe, your body reacts as if you're still that child who was told to be quiet. It becomes a reflex to hold back. But fear doesn't mean your voice is weak. It often means your message is powerful. Fear is a signpost pointing toward where growth is needed. The key isn't to wait for fear to disappear, but to speak through it. Each time you choose truth over hesitation, the grip of fear loosens a little more. Confidence isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision that your voice matters more than your fear. And every time you make that choice, your voice grows stronger, clearer, and freer. There's a powerful difference between choosing silence and being forced into it. Silence, when intentional, can be sacred. It gives space for clarity, grounds your energy, and allows your inner voice to grow stronger. Many wise individuals throughout history understood the value of quiet moments, not as weakness, but as a way to sharpen their message before releasing it. When silence is chosen, it becomes a tool of strength. You decide when to speak and what to speak, which makes your words land with greater impact. Suppression, on the other hand, feels heavy. It's when silence isn't your choice, it's fear, pressure, or conditioning making the decision for you. You want to speak, but something inside freezes. Your truth gets trapped in your throat, and afterward you replay the moment, wishing you had said what you needed to. Suppression weakens your sense of agency and can slowly disconnect you from your authentic self. For chosen ones, learning the difference between the two is crucial. There will be times when staying silent is wise, not because you're scared, but because your energy is too valuable to waste on deaf ears. And there will be moments where silence equals self-betrayal. The real power comes when you decide. Your voice isn't meant to be controlled by fear or external pressure. It's meant to be guided by wisdom and truth. There often comes a turning point when your voice, long suppressed or ignored, begins to stir again. It doesn't always happen through a grand event. Sometimes it starts quietly, like a nudge in your chest, a tightening in your throat, or an unshakable urge to finally say what you've been holding back. For chosen ones, this moment usually follows a period of internal tension, where staying silent feels more painful than speaking up. It's the soul's way of saying, enough hiding. You may notice signs that your voice is awakening. Sudden bursts of courage, powerful dreams involving speaking or singing, or experiences where your truth slips out effortlessly and surprises even you. Some people describe physical sensations in their throat area, as if energy that's been blocked for years is finally trying to move. Others notice they can no longer tolerate environments where their voice is dismissed. This moment can feel both exciting and uncomfortable. Old fears rise up as new strength emerges, but that discomfort isn't a sign to retreat. It's proof that something real is shifting inside you. Once this awakening begins, your voice becomes harder to silence. You start speaking with more honesty, setting clearer boundaries, and expressing your soul's message without apology. It's not about suddenly becoming loud, it's about finally becoming real. This is the point where silence stops being your default, and authenticity takes its rightful place. When your voice starts to awaken, one of the biggest challenges is confronting the old stories that have kept it chained for years. These are the silent scripts running in the background, beliefs like "no one listens to me," "I'll say it wrong," or "it's safer to stay quiet." Most of these stories were written in childhood or shaped by painful experiences where your voice wasn't valued. Over time, they became part of your identity, guiding how you speak, when you speak, and how much of your truth you allow out. Breaking these chains begins with recognizing that those stories are not facts, they're outdated narratives. You might remember specific moments where someone mocked your ideas, shut you down, or ignored your feelings. Back then, staying quiet felt like self-protection. But as an adult, holding onto those same patterns only keeps you stuck in a loop that no longer serves you. The shift happens when you consciously rewrite those scripts. Instead of "no one listens to me," it becomes "the right people hear me when I speak truth." Instead of "I'll say it wrong," it becomes "my voice grows stronger each time I use it." Rewriting isn't about pretending the past didn't happen, it's about reclaiming authorship of your story. Once those old chains break, your words stop carrying the weight of fear and start carrying the power of your truth. And that's when your voice begins to shape your reality, not your past. Words aren't just sounds, they carry direction, energy, and intention. When you speak, you're not only expressing thoughts, you're setting things in motion. This is why prayers, affirmations, declarations, and vows have held such power across cultures and ages. A single sentence, spoken with clear intention, can ignite change within you and around you. Think of historical figures who moved nations with their speeches. They didn't just talk, they declared. Their words were fueled by conviction, and that conviction shaped reality. For chosen ones, spoken intention is especially potent because your voice naturally carries a stronger energetic charge. When you speak with clarity, even simple phrases can ripple far. Saying "I choose peace" with full presence can shift your emotional state. Declaring "this ends with me" can break generational patterns. the impact isn't just external, your subconscious listens too. Each word you speak either reinforces your old identity or builds your new one. This is why careless words have consequences. Speaking negatively about yourself, even as a joke, programs your mind to believe it. On the other hand, intentional language plants seeds that eventually grow into lived experiences. The more you align your speech with your inner truth, the more your reality starts reflecting that alignment. When your words and your energy match, your voice becomes a tool of creation, not just communication. Voice isn't just a tool for expression, it's also a form of spiritual power. When used with clarity and truth, it can cut through deception, bring light into confusion, and shift the atmosphere around you. This is why truth, when spoken boldly, often shakes things. People can argue with opinions, but they can't easily stand against words that carry conviction and spiritual weight. For chosen ones, your voice can act like a sword, not to harm, but to separate illusion from reality. Think of moments when someone finally spoke the truth in a situation where everyone else stayed silent. The entire energy of the room changed, right? That's the power of a single, fearless voice. Spiritually, darkness thrives in silence and confusion. But the moment truth is spoken, even softly, it begins to unravel lies. That's why opposition often rises the moment you decide to speak, not because your voice is weak, but because it's effective. Using your voice as a spiritual weapon doesn't mean shouting or forcing people to agree. It's about speaking with authority, alignment, and unwavering honesty. It's the quiet strength that makes deception tremble. When you stand in truth and use your voice consciously, you don't just communicate, you shift things. That's why protecting your voice, keeping it pure, and using it wisely is essential. It's not just about being heard. It's about speaking light into places where silence once ruled. With the power to influence comes the responsibility to use that influence wisely. When your voice carries weight, your words don't just echo, they shape. For chosen ones, this means understanding that your voice can heal or harm, inspire or mislead, uplift or tear down. People often look to you, consciously or unconsciously, for clarity, strength, or direction. That's why reckless speech or speaking from ego can create unintended consequences. Your voice isn't meant to be used carelessly, it's meant to be used consciously. This responsibility also means staying grounded. The more people listen, the easier it is for ego to creep in, to start speaking to impress rather than to guide, to dominate instead of serve. But true authority doesn't come from volume or control, it comes from alignment with truth. The chosen voice carries impact not because it demands attention, but because it deserves it through authenticity and integrity. Being responsible with your voice also involves discernment, knowing when to speak, what to say, and when silence is wiser. Not every battle requires your input, and not every question deserves a response. Sometimes the most powerful use of your voice is restraint. When you speak from spiritual maturity rather than emotional impulse, your words become anchors, not noise. And that's how a chosen voice maintains its power, not through constant talking, but through intentional, wise expression that leaves lasting ripples. Understanding the power of your voice is one thing, activating it daily is another. Your voice, like any instrument, grows stronger through consistent, intentional practice. For chosen ones, this isn't about theatrical performance. It's about aligning your inner truth with your outward expression so your voice flows naturally and powerfully. One of the simplest ways to begin is breathwork. Most vocal blockages start in the body, not the mouth. Slow, deep breathing relaxes the throat and expands your vocal capacity. Just a few minutes each day can help you speak from a more grounded place rather than from tension. Another powerful method is humming or chanting. These vibrations stimulate your throat chakra and gently clear energetic blockages without forcing anything. Over time, this builds a natural resonance that makes your voice more steady and magnetic. Journaling out loud is another underrated practice. Instead of writing silently, speak your thoughts as you write or read your affirmations aloud. This connects your inner narrative with your spoken reality and trains your subconscious to trust your voice again. Finally, practice speaking your truth in low-stakes situations, with friends, during small conversations, or even alone. Each honest word you speak builds vocal confidence like a muscle. Over time, these daily habits reshape not only how you sound, but how deeply you own your voice. It's not about becoming louder, it's about becoming undeniably real. Your voice doesn't exist in isolation. It shapes the dynamics of every relationship and environment you're part of. In close relationships, your voice sets emotional boundaries, communicates needs, and builds trust. When you speak clearly and honestly, people know where they stand with you. On the other hand, when your voice is hesitant, filtered, or constantly suppressed, misunderstandings grow, resentment builds, and your presence becomes easier to overlook. For chosen ones, learning to use your voice intentionally in relationships is often the turning point between feeling unseen and stepping into quiet authority. In leadership, the power of your voice becomes even more evident. True leadership isn't about controlling others, it's about influencing through clarity, consistency, and presence. People follow voices that feel anchored. You don't need to be the loudest in the room, you need to be the most authentic. When you speak from conviction, even softly, people listen differently. Your voice can also set the emotional tone of any space. A calm, firm statement in a tense moment can bring everyone back to center. A truthful boundary can end cycles of manipulation. A kind word can inspire loyalty and trust. As your voice grows in strength, you'll notice how naturally people respond to it, not because you demanded their attention, but because your presence speaks before your words even do. This is where your voice transitions from self-expression to leadership. Long after conversations end, your voice continues to echo. The words you speak, especially as a chosen one, don't just disappear into the air. They linger in hearts, shape memories, and sometimes even outlive you. Think of the people whose words changed your life. Maybe it was a single sentence that gave you strength when you needed it most. Maybe it was a voice that made you feel seen, safe, or inspired. That's the kind of impact your voice is capable of. Every time you speak with intention, you're planting seeds. Some will sprout immediately, others may grow years later in someone else's life. This is why your voice isn't just about the present moment, it's part of your legacy. Long after your physical presence fades, your words can keep guiding, healing, and awakening others. History is filled with voices that became timeless. Leaders, poets, teachers, ordinary people who spoke truth with courage. Your legacy isn't built by speaking perfectly, it's built by speaking authentically and consistently. When your words carry your truth, they leave a lasting imprint. The echo of your voice can be a force of light in generations you may never meet. That's why reclaiming and using your voice now matters so much, because what you speak today can ripple far beyond what you can see. Your voice was never meant to be hidden, silenced, or watered down. It was meant to resonate. Every word you speak carries a unique vibration that no one else can replicate. When you find the courage to speak from your authentic self, you don't just change your own life, you give permission for others to rise too. That is the true power of a chosen one's voice. It awakens, heals, and leads without forcing. No matter how many times you were silenced in the past, today marks a shift. Your voice is not weak, it's waiting. And the moment you choose to use it intentionally, the world around you begins to respond in ways you couldn't imagine. So speak with clarity, speak with love, speak with authority. Your voice matters more than you've ever been told. If this message spoke to you, don't let it end here. Like, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Echo for more powerful content like this. And in the comments, declare this affirmation to anchor it into your reality. My voice carries truth, and truth carries power. Type it below, and let's fill the space with voices that refuse to be muted anymore. Your echo starts now.